Hey everyone, welcome back to the Improv TX Comedy Network. If this is your first time checking out the podcast network, we appreciate it. Please head over to your favorite podcast app, Spotify, Stitcher, Podbean, or iTunes, and give the Improv TX Comedy Network a like. And just a reminder, the Improv TX Comedy Network is live on YouTube with all your favorite comedians on the improv stage. All links can be found in the description. And with that, on to the podcast. Hey everybody, welcome to the Act Out from Open Mic to the Big Stage. Comedians tell us how stories were made. Today I have a very special guest. This guy is located in Austin, I believe, but originally he's from the New England area. Is that correct?
That's right, Massachusetts.
Massachusetts, right on. Awesome comedy. Was just on HBO, ladies and gentlemen. The Ha-Festival with Steve Treviño and Ralph Barbosa, just absolutely killing it. Go check that out on your HBO Max right now. You got to watch it. Ha-Festival, The Art of Comedy. Go check out that stand-up special right now. But today we have Dave J on. How are you doing, Dave?
I'm good, buddy. How are you?
I am excellent. I'm excellent. So I've always liked to begin with asking, how long have you been doing comedy?
So it'll be this summer will make 4 years. So it's been a little over 3.5, I think.
4 years and you got on HBO already?
Yeah. There was and that was back when it was just 2 years. That was we filmed that in 21, so it was like 2.5 years back then, I think.
That's insane. How did that work out? Because you were traveling with Steve Treviño at the time, or did you meet him during that? Or
yeah, so I met Steve at the HBO thing. That was down in San Antonio. So this was summer of 21, and I can't remember which COVID variant was hot back then, but it was very COVID out, and I was like, well, I can't. There's not as many mics. I can't really do as much out in the open, so I'll just apply to a bunch of festivals. And I applied to that one, and it's in San Antonio. It's like a month and a half away. It's probably too late, but I sent him a tape. It was free. And the next day, the guy who runs it called me and was like asking me questions. He goes, okay, we'd love for you to come be on the New Faces during the festival. And I go, oh, great. During the festival, they film this HBO special at the end, but it's still a whole festival. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to be on HBO. That's fine. I'll be a part of the festival. And maybe 3 weeks before, they called me and were like, well, we want to put you on the big show. And I was in the pickup line at school for my kids. It was incredible. I couldn't believe it. And even when we got there, the whole weekend, I was like, man, it's who knows what's really going to happen. And when I was there filming, that's when I met Steve, and we hit it off, and then I started working with Steve after that. So I've been on the road with Steve now since the fall of 21. So that will be a year and a half coming up on with Steve that I've been with him. And so that Hoff Festival was the best thing that ever happened to me, because I got introduced to Steve, and I think being on the road with him, I've become a much better comedian. Working with him, Steve's like my mentor, and we've been together on the road for a long time, working on jokes and learning about the comedy industry. And I've been here with him in this transitional period where he's, I worked with him in El Paso over a year ago at the comic strip. And then we went back to El Paso last month, and we were at we did 2 shows at this theater there. I can't remember what it's called, but it's like, 1,500 people or something like that. So he's been entering into this phase where now he's a theater comic. Well, I've been on the road with him, which has been awesome, dude, because, like we were in Oklahoma this past weekend, and I think this might've been the biggest crowd I performed for. It was 2,700 people sold out.
My God.
In Tulsa. And I'm like, it's awesome. You know what I mean? It's such an incredible sort of thing that I've gotten able to do. And then that Ha thing, that was, everyone knows Ralph Barbosa was on the Ha Festival thing too, but he wasn't supposed to be on the HBO special. It's really kind of incredible because I filmed Saturday and Sunday. Saturday was like a dry run, and they were just filming just the film, I think. And Ralph was on that. When we did the show on Sunday, he wasn't there. I remember talking to Ralph that weekend, that Friday probably, we're at some other show for the festival. And I was like, I'm on the HBO thing. And I almost didn't want to tell anybody because I don't want to jinx it. Like, I'm on the HBO part. And he was like, oh, shit, okay, that's cool. And I hated telling people because I'm like, you don't want to tell another comic, like, hey, you're this close and I'm doing it and you're not.
Right.
And then it comes out and they cut a couple of people. Luckily, I wasn't one of the people that got cut, and they added in what they filmed from Ralph on the day before into that one, and then Ralph blew the up. Yeah. And I think Ralph was already on the way. I think he had some other HBO stuff lined up, And I think Jeff, who runs the Hot Festival, was like, well, we wanted to be the first to have Ralph. So we got his footage, put him in the special. So that was a really cool kind of special weekend, you know?
Oh yeah, dude, I can't even imagine. And like, I immediately went to my HBO Max today, and I was like, I'm checking this out, and I loved it. Was the footage that you shot on the boat, was that done for that, or was that what you actually sent in as
Yeah.
your test tape?
So the boat stuff we filmed the day before down the Riverwalk in San Antonio. So if anyone's ever been to San Antonio, that's like their big thing. You go down there, there's a boat, you go to a restaurant, you buy a churro, whatever. And they wanted to film me and this other person. It was supposed to be both of our first debuts. The other person got cut. I feel bad. But they basically told us, like, we're going to get in a boat. All the people in the boat, they know they're like a part of a show or something. So they're like excited to be there. I think they've been instructed, like, make sure you laugh a lot. And they're like, you're just going to do stand up on the boat. And they're like, come with like 5 minutes and nothing you're going to do on the show. It was like 15 minutes on this boat. And you have to stop every time you go under one of those bridges. There's a lot of little bridges over the Riverwalk for light. So you have to get there and stop and then start again. And like, I thought it probably was even more than 15 minutes. And I'm just like, I don't want to go into any material and blow it, but I also don't want to bomb and not end up, in the final cut. So it was a really cool thing. They boiled down to like 60 seconds or something like that. And, I'm really proud of the Hot Festival stuff, but I feel like I'm so much better now than I was then, just because of all the road work I've gotten to do. So it's like, I almost want to go back and do it again. I want to go like, no, it's better now.
Yeah, dude, I can't believe 2 years in. That is awesome. That is so cool. Some people are 5, 10, 15 years and they never get that opportunity. So, I mean, but you're a natural, it seems like, too, because it feels like you've been doing it a lot longer than that when I watched your videos. So,
yeah, thank you.
Yeah, so we said, all right, Massachusetts, is that right? That's where you're from?
Yeah, beautiful Southbridge, Massachusetts. And beautiful is, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. This is like central. It should be Massachusetts. New England doesn't get included in the Rust Belt, but a lot of it ought to be. Like it's a lot of old factory towns and mill towns that are just they've got nothing going on now. So I grew up there. I went to college out in Massachusetts, got a job in Austin 9 years ago, I think it was, and moved down here. We had one kid, had 3 more kids, and now we're stuck here. I love Austin. I like living here, and it's been another just kind of great timing thing for me that I've been from, of like COVID hit, and then it became kind of the place to be for comedy.
Absolutely. I would put it at the third place to be right now, behind New York and California, as always. Austin, Texas is blowing up. The Texas comedy scene in general is blowing up. But totally. What a perfect place to be for that.
Speaking about Texas comedy, Hot Festival, that special, 4 out of the 6 comics that are featured are from Texas.
Yeah. Ralph is local from here. You're down there. Steve Treviño, he actually worked at the comedy club, the Addison Comedy Club that I work at, the Improv. He worked there for quite a while, a couple years, not like super long, 2 or 3 years. He was a door guy. He's got great stories about that. And then Paul Rodriguez, I don't know where Paul's from, but
Paul's from, I think he's from California.
Yeah.
But Chingo Bling was on there.
Oh, yeah. I forgot Chingo was on there. He kills it every time he comes through. He's an awesome guy. Super nice, too.
Yeah. Oh,
so with comedy, what was your first experience with that? Like, what was the first comedy special you saw, or was it a late night or a TV show that introduced you?
Yeah, I mean, when I was a kid, I remember watching a lot of different kinds of comedy, because I was in middle school right at like the height of Comedy Central, like when they would actually play specials. Like, I remember it was Friday night or Saturday night, they would just play all their half hours, and that would have been like late 90s, early 2000s, going right into like the Dave Chappelle era, Daily Show era, like that. All of that I was like absorbing, and I feel really like it was a fortunate time, because I would watch stuff like Blue Collar Comedy Tour and Kings of Comedy, and I feel like it was such a wide range of stuff available at that time. Now I can't even imagine. Now it's like, if you're a kid now, you have everything you could possibly think of.
Right.
But we had Kings of Comedy on tape. Comedy Central would play the Blue Collar guys all the time. All the half hours I would watch over and over again. And, back then we had HBO for a little bit, so we'd get Def Comedy Jams for a while. And I don't know, I thought when I was in high school, I'm like, I'm going to be a comedian. I'm going to graduate, and I'm not going to college. I'm going to become a comic. And then I didn't. and I went to college. I had started a family, started a career. I didn't start doing comedy until I was 30. I started, that summer after I turned 30. I'm like, well, I better do it now or I'm going to kill myself. I've been thinking about it for 10 years. I'm like, this is what I really want to do. And I started here in Austin at the Love Goat open mic, which is just a terrible place for comedy. But it's a good, you know what I mean? Like, it's a good thing to go and just really struggle. And the first time I did it 3 nights in a row. The first night, it was like, I think like everybody, it's like, hey, I didn't die. I must have done pretty good.
Were you nervous?
And then the second night, yeah, it was, I was like, when I was up there, I was fuzzy. You know what I mean? Like you're like so nervous that you're like, you can't even see straight. And then I did it the second night at Mr. Tramp's. Rest in peace to the Mr. Tramp's open mic. Notorious in a good way and a bad way. It was a bad mic, but it was a good hang. It was a good, I don't know. It's kind of a special place. And I ate and I ate really bad to the point where like I didn't go back to Mr. Tramp's for like months. I'm like, I can't go back there. It's never going to work there. And I'm like, all right, I'll do it one more time. I did it the third night in a row at Cold Town Theater, which is since died and then come back to life on the east side here in Austin. And somebody was like, wow, you're all right. And I was like, I'm gonna do it. I'm all right. So it was one of those things where, and I'm very much that way, where it's like it's hard for, if I really like something, I will obsess about it until it makes me unwell. And that's why the first time I did it, I jumped right in. I go 3 right away. And then from then on out, I mean, I was out as much as I could go out, probably 4 or 5 times a week after you put the kids to sleep, running out. That time it was in Austin, and it's even better now. Back then it was easy to go out most nights and find a mic.
Yeah, I was going to say, how do you juggle the family, the work, and the open mic? Because open micing is almost a full-time job of itself. You know what I mean? That's got to be complicated, especially with 4 children. So how did you find the ability to juggle that and to stay awake too? Like you got 3 jobs there, basically.
Yeah, it's tough, dude. Everything just takes a turn suffering. Everything is works will suffer, and then family will suffer, and then comedy will suffer, and you just keep going in a circle and for how long you can stomach it. But really, it's my wife. She's a stay-at-home mom. She does everything. Like, she is, I've been gone a lot for the last year and a half, almost every weekend, and it's her at home with the kids, being an only parent while I'm away. And she kind of believes in it and is like, knows that I'm trying to make something happen. And she's like, all right, you'll pay me later for this. So go try to make it happen.
That's awesome. Yeah. When you're rich and famous, dude, you can buy her the house, the car, time, whatever you got. You know what I mean? That's so cool. So you were saying the first time you went up, did you practice? Did you write any jokes, or did you just go up and wing it?
I wrote jokes. I wrote them down. I recited them word for word, exactly how it was going to happen. And in the bathroom with my wife before I go, I'm like, all right, this is what I'm going to say. And I'm saying it word for word, the way it's going to happen. And I went up there and basically did that. And then for a long time, I was that way. I was like, I got to know the exact words I'm going to use. And as you do for, a little while, you start to be like, all right, I kind of, this is the joke basically. So let me go see if I can find it up there. But yeah, back then it was really like, I'm on script,
Yeah. Did you get drunk the first time, or did you stay sober when you went up?
I was pretty sober. I think I had a drink because it was a bar, and I'm like, I guess I got to buy a drink. But now I never do that. I don't think I've ever gone on stage drunk. No, I took a gummy and went on stage on New Year's Eve, this last New Year's Eve, which I never do. The first show was good. The second show was not.
Yeah. Once it kicks in, you're like, oh, yeah, that's the worst thing. If you get high before you go on stage, you're going to be way too in your head. Some people can handle it, but like, they know their set so well, it's just repeating it over and over again.
Yeah.
But where's the fun in that? You got to get all the other stuff, like the crowd work and your timing's a little bit messed up. So I would suggest stay away from
of course. That was the last time.
So what was it like the first time you got the hosting gig, when you actually got the paycheck? Were you pretty quick into it? You said 2 years you did the HBO special. So were you hosting that whole time?
I don't think I had done some like small like B-room hosting or featuring leading up to that. And in Austin, I was getting longer sets, like on the showcases. So like 15, 20-minute showcase sets.
Oh, wow.
But I think the real, if I'm remembering correctly, I want to say the first time that I did like a proper club set, host or feature, would have been with Steve. It would have been El Paso right after we did HBO in San Antonio. And Steve does a 2-man show. So I go up, host and feature. So I'll go up 20 or 25 minutes and then bring him up. And then that's the show. And that would have been the first time. And I was nervous too. Like this was in El Paso, and it was at the comic strip. And we were staying in the hotel behind the comic strip where people get murdered, apparently. There's 2 hotels behind the comic strip. There's one where it's like an older place, and then there's one like a Marriott or something. Looking out of my window, I could see the old hotel, and it's all gated off because it's an ice holding facility now. You can't even walk through the parking lot. But the Uber driver goes, that's where the Night Stalker got his start, in that hotel. Because Richard Ramirez killed a woman in her room in whatever, like 207, whatever the room number is. And he goes, they say every night somebody calls down to the front desk from 207, you can hear a woman screaming, and then there's no phone in there, no one stays in there. And I'm like, dude, don't tell me that shit. I don't want to know that, dude. I don't want to know that, dude. I gotta wake up in the morning, open the blinds, and there's the Night Stalker right there. But that's where they used to keep people at the comic strip. They used to stay there.
I was going to say though, you're kind of a history buff though, right? So something like that would intrigue you.
Yes, it's a cool. It's cool to be near history, not too close. Sometimes you get near history. But yeah, that's kind of my thing. I read a lot of, you can see on my books back here, I read a lot of history. Started the podcast just recently, This Day in History, where the big idea is I know a lot of little stories and facts. And so it's kind of like drunk history, just we're not drunk. So it's me and some other comic just giving some story. So I'll tell a story to them. They'll tell a story to me. We try to keep it pretty specific, like make it something that's like, it's not World War II. It's like this battle that happened. Or I just did one that's going to come out soon about Operation Valkyrie, where they tried to kill Hitler. Like those little like kind of vignettes. That is just so interesting to me. And getting to travel, I like to go to we go somewhere and go find out what the local national park is or history museum, and just go, look at it. Because even if you're nowhere, that's the great thing about this country. Even if you're in the middle of nowhere, there's something there that's unique to that place. So you should go check it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Where I'm from is a small town in Clarion, Pennsylvania, and they have something called the Washington House, which my uncle actually owned for a time. It was a bar and restaurant, but it was called that because George Washington had stopped there along the way. I'm watching your podcast today. I'm just like, man, that seems like a lot of work, but it was really intriguing and interesting. Yeah. And I could tell you were very passionate about the history you were talking about. And it's fun because you guys would just insert little jokes here and there. You know what I mean? So I hope it blows up.
I hope so. I mean, I'm trying to figure out the beats. I've been listening back to them and go, trying to. It's like doing stand up. You got to listen to your set and look at it and go, oh, okay, I gotta shut up right here and let somebody else talk for a moment and just figure out how to make it better and more palatable. And I think the more we do it, the less work it becomes. Because I think about something that I kind of know about, and then I'll research it for an hour, and then go, all right, this is what happened. Just don't Google anything I say. It's going to be directionally, it will be correct.
I thought that was funny that you said that. Don't Google it. Don't Google it. I was like, I'm taking in all this false information right now. No, it's a great podcast. It's called This Day in History. Go check it out. Yes. It's freaking awesome.
Hey everyone, it's just Stuck jumping in to say thank you so much for checking out the podcast today. If you dig it, please head over to our website at improvtx.com, where you can check out our calendar for all the upcoming shows in Addison, Arlington, Houston, and San Antonio. And don't forget to follow our social media, all links in the description. And with that, back to the podcast.
Have you headlined before? Based upon what you've told me, it sounds like you're kind of featuring and hosting, but you're going to be headlining the Addison Improv soon. Have you headlined already, though?
A couple times locally here in Austin, around Central Texas. I'm going to San Antonio this weekend to the Artisan. I think it's called the Artisan this Saturday, February 4th. We're doing 2 shows down there. And then coming up to Dallas to see y'all at the Addison. So I've gotten in a handful this year, and really this month, February, is where I'm trying to start to kick it into full gear here and have it be a regular motion. I think the big thing is, what it's like when you hit a new minute number and you're just trying to feel comfortable here. I feel very comfortable at 25, 20, 30. That's okay. Go on stage right now. I'll do it. And so I think it's doing, those 45 plus sets long enough where it's no problem. You could just, it doesn't make you feel nervous. It just feels like that's what I do. And that's what I learned on the road is where a small crew. Steve doesn't travel with a lot of people. It's me, him, and his road manager. And so during the show, especially when we're in a theater, I'm doing a lot of stuff. I'm like helping to set up merch, and I'm running around, and I'm getting this person to pass, whatever. A lot of times when I walk on stage, I'm in the middle of doing all this, and then I just go directly onto the stage. There's not a lot of sit and contemplate.
Wow.
You got to kind of do that before, try to find a moment. And I think that's been good for me because I don't feel nervous doing that. The bigger the crowds get, it's harder to make me nervous. And I think that is a good thing because it's making me, I'm willing to take chances in front. If I'm willing to take chances in front of 1,700 people in San Antonio, then I'm willing to take chances anywhere and try to be as loose as possible on stage. And it's been a real benefit to like my confidence and my abilities and learning how to relate to people, learning how to work out a joke on stage. And, all that stuff has been the building blocks coming together where I go, okay, I'm ready to try the next thing.
Yeah. So it's headlining. Hopefully more and more and more as this year goes on and further on. Are you going to continue to travel with Steve then?
Yeah, I'm traveling with Steve for most of this year, and then probably some Texas dates in the fall. So I'll be with him for a little while longer, and I'm looking forward to it because you get to go to some cool places. We're going to Pennsylvania. We'll be up there not this weekend, the next weekend. We're going to Wilkes-Barre, a couple other places. I can't remember exactly where. And I like that. It's hard for my family to be gone, but I like going to those little places, Like it's cool to go New York, Miami, whatever, Houston, Dallas, all these big places. But we went to Fort Smith, Arkansas last weekend and Tulsa. And I like those places too, because you get to, I don't know, it feels like you're really seeing the country for better or worse. No offense, Fort Smith, Arkansas. You're doing your best. But it's cool. It's a lot of fun. And I think, most of this year we'll be together. And then it'll start to kind of taper off.
It'd be really cool. It'd be cool to see you do remotes from those historical sites for your podcast YouTube. I bet that would really blow up, I bet. Because you're smart. You're doing the shorts. I saw that on your regular YouTube and on there. And the shorts will blow up like crazy. But it would be really crazy to see you go out as a comedian and do historical, like go to Gettysburg when you're in Pennsylvania or something like that.
Yeah.
That would be bad.
I think that would be a really cool thing to like just kind of like, even when you go to some of these places, it's just like, here's a monument and you're like, oh, okay, you read the thing, you see, and you get to have like a couple of moments that you could film of making fun of it or learning about it or asking somebody that I'm with about it. And that's everywhere, man. It's we went to Philadelphia last year. The Rocky Steps. I can't remember. That's some art museum. But then you look down and there's that huge statue. There's like a handful of huge statues down like in this big mall area. And like there's a ton of history just right there. Never mind the rest of Philly, right? Like you go down to Independence Hall and stuff like that. Yeah. But like that type of stuff, like learning about something from just looking at a monument seems like so silly. But now that it's 2023, you can go to that monument, read about it, and on the spot, Google like, what is this? And learn a lot while you're there. And I like to do that with my kids. We take them to national parks when we go on road trips and stuff, and they probably don't give at all because they get to do it all the time and be like, hey, this is a big deal. The XYZ thing happened here or whatever. And they're like, yeah, okay, who cares?
The one thing I've always wanted to get into was the coin collecting. Each state has a specific coin. I can't remember where you have to go. It's like traveler centers.
Oh,
I thought that'd be really cool.
I got something for you. If you know Steve Treviño, he loves to gamble. He's a big craps player. So here I collect a $1 coin at every casino that we go to, almost every. And this is the past year and a half of chips. I'm probably missing half a dozen, but everywhere I go, I call it the college fund. I get one for me and I get bring one for my daughter. And so if she wants to go to college, she's got to go travel around the country cashing these in. There's probably 18, 20 there. And then a half a dozen that I probably missed. So that's my coin collection.
I got to ask, what's your writing process like? Do you write longhand? Do you write on the computer? Is it all in your head? How do you go about it?
It's on the computer and it's becoming less and less written out. It's always been on the computer. I just type faster. I can almost type as fast as I think. And so I'll just type out the joke. Here's the wording of the joke. Here's the punchline, blah, blah, blah. But like when you go to do it, the way you write is not the way you speak. So when you go to do it, it kind of comes out different or it doesn't feel natural if you do it like it does on the paper. So what I've been starting to do is writing down like the idea, like a note. You'd be like, oh, I'm going to talk about XYZ thing that happened and try to come up with it in my head. And I have Monday show here in Austin at the Creek and the Cave where I kind of use that to work things out, where I'll go up there and go like, all right, I'm going to talk about, this thing that happened with my son, and try to just talk it out on stage, listen to it back, and then just keep cutting and cutting and cutting until it's a joke. And then at that point, I'll write it down somewhere and go like, all right, this is the joke. And this is the basic structure. And then I'll probably forget about that writing for a while, and the joke will continue to change. And then I'll go back and update it again. I like to have a record to go like, all right, because I forget at some point in the future, I go, this is what I wrote down. That's kind of what it's becoming. And I like that because it feels more natural. But I also, I worry that I forget things too easily in that process. And so hopefully that's just a little Easter egg for me to find years from now and go, oh, yeah, I forgot this was funny too.
And go back and just like, I love that. I find scraps of paper all the time with an idea on them. And I'm like, when did I write this? And then I'll throw it down and start to work on it, So what is the weirdest thing you ever saw on stage? Not behind the scenes or anything like that, but like actually on stage, because we all know the weirdness happens behind the curtain.
Totally.
Has anything ever happened that stood out to you?
Oh, let's see. Weirdest thing that happened on stage
or during a show?
Well, we had a couple people have to be taken out in an ambulance in Detroit. I don't know what happened to them. As long as I got off stage and someone for the first show, and the road manager's like, yeah, they carried somebody out of here on a stretcher. And I go, when you were on stage, I was like, oh. And then the next show happened again. So I don't know what was going on there.
It happened 2 shows back to back
the same night.
That's shows. Insane.
2 shows in one night back to back. And I don't know, something that I can remember. I mean, I remember early on here in Austin or Georgetown, but in the Austin area, there's this great show called Barrels and Amps. It's run by my buddy Dean Stanfield, who's very funny. I was doing, I think, 30 minutes, and like 10 minutes in, this lady just would not shut up. She was just drunk at the back of the room screaming, and it turned into the whole rest of the set was me and her arguing, and it was bad. And at one point, I'm like, this isn't even funny anymore. Their name was Angela. And the next week, she's like a regular at this place. She might have even worked there, but she was like off the clock, because that's the kind of place Georgetown is. Like, everyone's like, oh, that's Angela. And I went back the next time I went back, and they had a sticker made that said, shut up, Angela. And I'm gotta get these printed. So that was a nightmare then, but looking back, it's funny now.
Oh, that's awesome. Do you play music? I see the guitar in the background.
Yeah, I mostly play bass. When I was in college, in high school, I started playing guitar, and I played out a couple times, and then I was like, I'm not that good. I'm like just okay. I don't know. I don't think it never clicked all the way in where it's like, now you can like do anything. I can play tabs and stuff like that.
Yeah. Do you ever just pick it up and think about writing whenever, like comic writing, and just pick away at it or anything like that?
Lately the past couple of days, it's funny you say that, I have been messing with it, but I mostly do it as like, when I first started doing it, is like an escape, like, because you have to be, and comedy is this way. You can't think about anything else. You know what I mean? If you're trying to figure out how to do this, play the song or whatever, you have to give it all of your attention and be doing it right now. The same thing with comedy. When you're on stage, if you're thinking about something else, if you're not in the moment, then it's not going to work. So I've been doing it as kind of a way, actually, to do the opposite, to kind of shut off my brain and just doodle around. I get so bored with it sometimes, though, because I'm not that good. So I can do like 3 things, and I'm like, all right, I've heard this one.
I'm moving on. What advice do you have for up and coming comedians? I'm about a year in. I'm not very good. What would you say to somebody who's just starting out?
Just do it as much as you can stomach. Do it all the time. The most important thing you can do is just do it, especially if you're new. If you worry about anything else other than getting better at being on stage and writing jokes, then you're worried about the wrong things. I think if you're obsessed with your writing, and if you're obsessed with figuring out your stage presence, then everything else will fall into place. There's a lot of people who are not funny become very successful, but not for long. And that's just what I observe. And the people who last and who matter are the people who are really genuinely good at being on stage. That doesn't mean being good about social media. It doesn't mean being good at networking. It means you have to be good on stage. And I think that should be your primary focus. And the thing that really attracted me to comedy, or that kind of hooked me on it, was that I spent my whole life trying to figure out how to make money. And I went to college because I was like, I'll make more money. I got a job because I'll make more money. I work really hard. I'll get this promotion, then I'll make more money. But it's not like those things are my passion. Comedy is the only thing in my life ever where I only care about being good at it. It's the only thing that I've ever cared about being good at, actually. Besides being a father and being a husband, doing comedy is like, I just want to do it and be good at this thing, not because it will make me money. That's becoming more complicated as like time goes on, and I am making money doing it. And then you're like, well, how can I make more money doing it? That becomes a problem. But you have to do it just because you want to be good at it. And yeah, like I think another thing too is like whatever makes you laugh, try to make that funny on stage, and don't worry about the back of the room. Like, it's fun for your peers to think that you're funny and for them to respect you, but nothing is more respected than somebody who can kill. And so for me, as a guy who started when I was 30 and I have a family, I talk about me and I talk about my kids. And Austin's a pretty young scene nowadays because of the way that it's been blowing up and yada yada yada. And so it's a lot of young guys, a lot of them talking about a lot of the same stuff. Everyone wants to talk about their dick. Everyone wants to talk about porn and whatever. Like, do it. That's fine. But I think it's sometimes easy for me to feel like, do I fit in because I'm up here? Like, I'm like the old guy. Like, I'm talking about like what it's like to be a dad and what it's like to have a family and all this stuff. But if it's getting a laugh and it's something that like connects to you personally and makes the audience care about you, to me, that's the highest form of doing this. For my money, the greatest of all time is Chris Rock. I think there's nobody, everything that anybody might say about why someone else is the greatest. Someone said this, everything that everyone says about Dave Chappelle is true about Chris Rock. And it's because he is very funny, yes, but that's almost not even, but everybody's funny. You know what I mean? There's a lot of funny dudes. There's a lot of dudes who are as funny as, but the reason that he is in another class is because his jokes are elevated, because he also is talking about things that are messagey, and people are afraid of a message. They go, oh, I don't want to be Nanette or whatever her name is. And I'm like, well, Chris Rock is funny and he's making a point. So the joke is already inside of you. Like, one of my favorite Chris Rock bits is from his most recent special, where he goes, if you think you and your wife are equal, then go in your house and try to hang up a picture of your mom. And that's not even a joke. That's the beginning of the joke. But that idea, and he has a lot of that, was like what's the value of being a man versus being a woman? If you took all the jokes out, it's like a profound thing to talk about. But he's funny and he makes a point, which I think makes him the best, the highest version of this. So if you're trying to be that, then I think you're in good shape. But learn how to be funny, learn how to write a joke, then use those tools to figure out what you want to say.
It sounds like you view it as an art form then, do you?
Yeah, I think it is. Not a lot of art galleries are serving chicken nuggets, but it's like, it is. I think that it is because, it is more and more as I go on. It's me expressing things that I want to express. So yes, it needs to be funny, and yes, it's the point should come across in a funny way, but also I get the chance to talk about whatever I want to talk about and things that are important to me and create a message. I mean, I've had, through working out jokes, like really had like realizations about like my issues, sometimes a contentious relationship with my mom, and I started writing jokes about her, and through writing the jokes I understood her better. So it's a way to express yourself. It's also a way to figure out who you are at the same time. Because if I'm going to tell a bunch of people who I am, I got to figure out who I am first. And so it is an art. I think and even if you're just up there with dick jokes, it's art too, man. It's just for entertainment and emotional connection. And this emotional connection just happens to be like, I'm going to make you laugh. And if I'm lucky, I'll make a point. Maybe you'll think too.
Yeah, I always consider comedians modern day philosophers in a lot of ways. And they're able to tackle subjects that other people can't tackle, because especially when it comes to race relations, gender relations, even our ages, like you said, you're a young man and you have a family. I'm quite a bit older than you and I don't have a family, but it's universal. You know what I mean? You're doing universal comedy out there, and talking about your family is one of the most relatable things you can do.
Yeah.
I mean, I just love it though. But like you said, you throw a little bit of philosophy behind it, let people think about it for a while. That's the way to go.
Totally.
My last question for you is, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Where do you want to be?
Oh, that's a great question. I would love to have comedy be my main gig. I'd love to be able to quit my job and focus all my energy on this. I think that that's the next goal here. I don't know how long it's going to take. If it happens in 5 years, I'll be happy. That's like a short time schedule for me with how long I've been doing it. But I really hope that at that point, I am building an audience that can help support my dream of doing this solely. That's an audience that can relates to me and can connect with what I'm saying and is supporting me by listening to the podcast and by coming to shows and be able to do this full time, take my family with me. I mean, that's the ultimate goal. Is I'd love to be able to take my family with me as much as I can whenever we go on the road. And yeah, I think I'm not sure what the end goal is going to be or what it looks like. I think for comedy, you kind of just keep doing it. And it's funny, it's kind of disheartening because I heard recently this Louis C.K. quote where he goes, it takes 25 years to be a good comic, but it also takes 25 years to figure out that you shouldn't have started in the first place. Well, I guess that's what I'm headed towards is 25 years figuring out, should I have done this?
Yeah. No, I think you should have, man. I think that you're killing it. I think you're going to continue to kill it. Like I said, 4 years in the game and you've already been on HBO, you're traveling the country. You've done so much more than a lot of people with 4 years that have done. And it's so cool to hear that because everyone's journey is different. I'm happy to hear that your journey, you put in the work and, and timing met. And that's what I call luck. It's hard work and timing meeting.
Yep.
That's luck. And you hit it, man. The shirt says lucky. So
yes.
That is awesome. We got to promote the show.
Yeah, it's a Saturday, February 25th
at 7:30, I believe. No, 11:30 show, right?
11:30 after Harlan Williams.
Yeah. Oh, dude, that's so much fun. Have you ever seen him in person?
Not in person, no. I'm hoping I can catch some that night.
Yeah, dude, he's aces. He's hysterical. He's a master of the stage. So so the 25th at 11:30, you got Kirsty Hayden. She's local. She's awesome. Tony Casillas, he moved down to Austin from here. He's awesome. Shahan Jahani, he's great too. And then Dean Stanfield, you're bringing him up with you, huh?
Yeah, my buddy Dean down here, he's one of my best friends in comedy and otherwise, because I really only have comedy friends. Dean's going to come with me. We're going to gig in McKinney the night before at the Comedy Arena that Friday before, which is the 24th, I believe, right? So if you're in McKinney and you want to do the Friday, come see me on Friday. Saturday, 11:30 at Addison. I love the Addison Improv. I heard they closed the bar across the hallway.
They did, yeah. Social media, facebook.com/Dave J Comic, Instagram.com/Dave J Comic. I was laughing because your Twitter just says, I hate Twitter. Go to my Instagram.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't follow me on Twitter, I guess, but I won't be there. Instagram is where all the good stuff is. Please listen to my podcast, This Dave in History. Me and some other dummy every week talk about history. Actually, the episodes coming out on Friday are with Tony Casillas.
Oh, very nice. And Dean's on the early episodes, which were great. So I just check those out. What's the YouTube channel?
The YouTube channel is look up Dave J Comedian and This Dave in History on YouTube. Yeah, it's a lot of fun and run over at Josh Cabaza's studio. Josh Cabaza is a San Antonio guy who's one of the, I think, Texas favorite sons in comedy. So come check it out. And I appreciate you having me on the show, man. This is great.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you being on. Everyone go check out the show on the 25th, like we said. Dave, thank you. Thank you. And I hope that everything happens in 5 years. You're one of the biggest comics in the nation, if not the world. That would be awesome. So
hey, you said it.
With that said, everyone out there, please support local comedy in any way, shape, or form that you can. And with that, we'll see you on the next one.
And there it is. Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to the podcast today. If you enjoyed it, please head over to improvtx.com to check out all our upcoming shows at the Addison, Arlington, Houston, and San Antonio clubs. If you like this podcast, you might enjoy the other podcasts on the Improv TX Comedy Network. We have The Act Out. From open mics to the big stage, comedians tell us the story they've made, where I talk to comedians from all over and chat about their journey this far. Also, check out the Black Dog Retro Arcade podcast. Straight from the arcade, we talk about how our favorite games were made. That's right, we're talking all that video game goodness. And finally, we have Quacking Up, a storytelling podcast where we pick suggestions from a hat and tell stories based upon them. Once again, thank you so much for listening. Please check out our social media, all links in the description. And with that, we'll see you on the next one.